Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming again. And it's always a pleasure to serve the Lord, but also serve the Lord in a place where you really like to be. Last week, as you know, we started with the beginning of it, and this is more like a seminar type, and it's part of a four-part series that I call Foundations for Healthy Relationships. We start with how important relationships it is to us and the three areas that we need to pay attention to. One, adjust your expectations, which is the four temperaments plays a major role. The second part is improve your communication, because that's what you need to do on a regular basis. And the third one is to resolve your frustration. And they're all kind of stand-alone type. So what we are doing is 1 and 2. And normally I do it on a Saturday with the 2 or 3 hours, and there's only a gap in between. And so we said one of the verses in Psalm 100 and verse 3, the Bible says, "Know ye that the Lord, he is God. It is he that has made us and not we ourselves. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture." Now, obviously, God made us, but we are very intricate. And we said last week there was this 75-year-old study, and the conclusion was that good relationship keeps us happier and healthier, period. And we said this shouldn't really come as a surprise to Bible-believing Christians. Why? Because the scripture already tells us that we were created with an innate desire for relational intimacy in our nature, and we were built to function as social being, and we were blessed to go forth and multiply. The Bible says, and God said, "Let us make man in our image after our likeness." Fashioned after God's likeness, man is the pivotal figure of God's handiwork, is a person created with power and wisdom, not a product evolved over time by chance. And we said that the big picture of what we're trying to do is that successful relational living, it is not a mystery, but a mastery of the art and science of three areas. One, to adjust your expectations, improve your communication, and resolve your frustration. When you become a master at that, and by master, I don't mean that you are a professor and you're teaching that at a university degree level. We're not talking about this. We're talking about that you realize the seriousness of this, and you study everything you can. But you need to understand who you are as a personality, because different personalities process things differently. And when you're dealing with somebody else, they receive it differently. And if you don't know that, you can waste a lot of time. You can feel bad, and you think other people are weird, and everybody is unhappy. And the key, therefore, is understanding is crucial. So now we come to the four temperaments. Now, the temperament theory seems to be first discovered in ancient Egyptian medicine, then developed into a medical theory by the Greek physician Hippocrates, who lived between 460 and 370. He believed that certain human moods, emotions, and behavior were caused by an excess or a lack of body fluids called humors, which he classified as blood, yellow bile, black bile, and phlegm. And the sanguine is the blood, and the choleric he named for the yellow bile, and the melancholy for the black bile, and the phlegmatic for the phlegm. And this has been so popular now. A lot of time people think this is a lot of psychological thing. And it's been used within the psychology realm, obviously, because anything to do with interpersonal relationship lifestyle, it is always to do with psychology. You need to understand the psyche, the psyche, the soul. And now, not everyone who goes to study it comes from a Christian perspective, or want to give God the glory, or want to understand the human nature from God's perspective. but nevertheless they realize the value. This is so many different systems that came up. But keep in mind, it was more a scientific thing, more than a psychological thing. And a lot of pastors and very well respected people, they actually realize the value of your personality. Dr. David Jeremiah, he says that your personality is the means by which God touches others. And of course, we know that if you live within the context of relationships, God touches other people through you. Go out into all the world and preach the gospel. That means you go. You speak, you serve, you do, you develop relationship. And in order to do that, you need to understand these things. So why temperaments? Well, I think, and this is something that you can take from it. This is a tool for you, because what that does, it helps you understand and accept yourself. So in order to understand and accept others, because the people who have issues with other people, it's not because they don't understand who the other person is and why the other person does. That's not the reason. It's because they don't understand and accept themselves. And so there's a blockage. But when you understand and accept yourself, that whether you are an introvert or an extrovert, whether you are this or that, you understand and you settle in this, then you are free now to begin to understand others and accept them. And when you do that, you have a much healthier relationship, particularly starting at the home. And by the way, when I started doing that over 40 years, I did it initially for our church, to help marriages in our church. The marriage has always been top-notch in my life, to make sure that we strengthen marriages, because marriage is always under attack at every point. And I wanted to kind of bring something to help people understand each other. Why? Because misunderstanding always leads to misjudgment. If you ever want to know why people misjudge other people and they say things about them, primarily because they misunderstand them. And it's very clear, particularly coming tomorrow with the elections, and not just what the media will do, and not just what the people who kind of throw in Spanish in the work will do. They will always cause you to misunderstand, so you misjudge, because they don't want you to know what is and what is not. And that's what happened in our life. This is really, really funny. Your wife says that you never buy her flowers. Is that true? Well, to be honest, I never knew she sold flowers. Obviously, this guy had no idea about what his wife does and doesn't do. What about how men shop and how women shop? The men, very simple. They know, they go, they buy, they go home. Well, the woman, okay, here and up and down and there and start, and then they got to decide what it is. And so understand and accept yourself. Why would that be? Well, let me give you at least 7 reasons that I think is really helpful for you. First of all, you'll be able to discover and develop your God-given design. We said it is God who has made you. Years ago, there was a song by AC/DC, Who Made You, Who Made You? Well, I say to them, it is God who made us and not we ourselves. And the people who don't acknowledge God in our lives, they're kind of thrown away a major part and keeping us all blind. So we need to discover and develop our God-given design. Number 2, your natural talents plus your spiritual gifts equals your life purpose. So when you understand and accept yourself, you realize that when you were first born, God gave you natural talents. And when you were born again, God gave you spiritual gifts. When these two meet and marry and live harmoniously together and have devotions every morning together, that you'll find your life purpose. And also it helps you function within it, what leads you to effective living. And the key word is on function. Like for example, this computer in front of me, the phone in front of me, anything that we have, we don't have to shout at it. We just have to press a button and it functions. Well, our life is the same thing. And so when we understand and accept ourselves, we are in the function mode, and it's smooth. It goes from point A to point B. It reaches its goal, and that leads to effective living. There's also insight into our strength and struggles. We all have strength because God given everybody strength, and that's his giftedness to us. Because God is a good God. He did not allow us to come to this world so he can say, oh, well, now you do the best you can with what you have, and then I'll go fix something else. God is not like that. God loves us that much. And so he gave us strength, but we also have struggle because of sin and because of all sorts of life's experiences. And we need to identify and have an insight. So if these things are causing problem for us, ahead of time, we identify them, we remove them, and we do better. Also, it's less time, less wasting time and worry. A lot of time people, when they compare with others, they say, oh, he is doing this and she is doing this and I'm at the age and I don't know what I'm going to do and I'm at the age, and you worry. When you understand and accept yourself, you have a lot less time wasting on worry. And also a better career choice. For example, if you are of an extrovert, a sanguine type, and you work behind a desk, you're not going to be happy. It's really as simple as this. I mean, classic what we have here, the people who are doing the desk job are perfect for it because of their temperament. They love the details. They love the challenges. But don't give it to a sanguine. Sanguine have looked at, oh, that's a nice color. What can I press here and mess up everything in this? But not so with the melancholy. Whoa, don't touch it. And you understand these things. And also it makes you a happier person as well. What about when you understand and accept others? Wow. You connect with others at a deeper level. Isn't that just wonderful when you are with people? Like what I have with Pastor Rob. You know, I remember knowing Pastor Rob for many, many years. I've always enjoyed being with him. Anybody I meet up, they always say the same thing. You feel really comfortable with it. And it's really nice because not everybody like this. Most people either don't like you, or they don't like what they heard about you, or they don't like the second or third things that people have said, and they come in with an attitude and you can't be walking on X with them. But when you connect with others at a deeper level, it's such a wonderful thing. And a better and a healthier relationships, a better and a healthier home life, a better and a healthier workplace, a better and a healthier friendships, a more fulfilled life generally, and a happier life altogether. So this is something I thought about, and I want you to take that on board. So when we kind of begin to unpack the 4 temperaments, I want you to see the value of this. We need transparent intent, so whatever you have, no pretense, no mucking around, no agenda, particularly hidden agenda, plus truthful content. That's where you have sincere communication, and that's what leads to solid connection. Now, it's almost impossible for you to have transparent intent if you don't even know yourself. You don't know whether you're being sincere or not. And you don't know if the other person is being sincere or not. And you're not speaking the truth because you don't know how the other person is going to take it. But when you know who you are and you understand yourself, you are a much better position to do that, and you have solid connection. There are 3 things I want you to keep in mind as we kind of unpack this. This presentation that I'm doing is not supposed to either define you or restrict you. It's to describe you and release you. So don't give it so much more than it actually deserves. It's a tool for us to help us unpack certain things about the personality, get an insight into the strength and the struggles, make ways about it, make some changes, anticipate certain things, and do better at this. But if you get it to define you and restrict you, you've missed the point. It is to describe you and release you. Second thing, this presentation is not intended to either accuse you or excuse you, but rather to equip you and empower you. For example, if you're of a sanguine temperament, which we will see in a moment, one of your challenges is you're late. You lose things. You lose time. You exaggerate. That's what you do. So if I'm saying that, it's not because somebody else told me about you. No, because that's what your natural tendency is. And it's also not to excuse you. Says, oh yeah, now I know why I'm late. Oh, now I know why I could lose my thing. Thank God for this revelation. I know because I'm a sanguine. No, that's not the idea. The idea is you understand because of this you have a high level of tendency, and those behaviors, those actions are causing you and causing those who are close to you problems, and they need to be removed. But what I'm hoping it would equip you and empower you to live better. And the third thing is when you are made aware of your personality's natural tendencies. Natural tendencies. And these words are chosen very, very particular. It does not equip you of the responsibility of what you need to do, but equips you with the realization of who you really are. And now you can say, okay, I can do better. Okay, so let's start with the first one, the popular sanguine. They're the actors, the speakers, the salespeople. I love this. It says, dear teacher, I talk to everyone, so moving my seat won't help. So if you have kids in your classroom and they are sanguine, just don't move them because it's not going to make any difference. And so they're the talkers. They have the loud voice. They walk in a voice first. Everybody knows what it is. The place could be nice and quiet, particularly if that was the phlegmatic or the melancholy type of people. Everything's nice and quiet. And all of a sudden, it's almost like a freight train walks in. Hello, everybody, I am here. Well, because that's what they do. They're loud voices, they're loud clothes, and they're curious. They have an open mouth, they open life. Too much information. You ask them what they did on the weekend. Well, you better sit down because they're not just going to tell you what they did. They're going to bring the whole thing because it's a series now. They tell you what they did this year and last year and the year before. And by the way, it was this. And when somebody comes in and the other person makes a comment and that gets them distracted, and they love being distracted, by the time the meeting is finished, you're tired, you're exhausted from just listening to them. They have a very open gestures. They have an intriguing life. They're wide-eyed. They love attention. Their strength is they love people. They love being around people. They make friends easily. They like to tell stories. Oh, wow. When the sanguine develop discipline and he or she understand that their tools of trade is their words, and words is what really God uses in their lives, and they begin to make sure it's based on substance. It is a delight to listen to because it's done with such passion and precision. And they thrive on activity. They love to do things. And they're good salespeople. Their struggles, they get bored very easily. They'll be with you, and if they're saying something and you start looking around, they get very bored. They're trying to find somebody they lock eyes on to make sure they continue the story with them. They find it hard to say no. So at church, when there is any volunteering, they're the first one to volunteer. However, they volunteer on Sunday and they go back on Tuesday and Wednesday because they realize this is the 18th volunteer things that they've done, and there's no time in the world for it. Or they haven't spoken to their husbands or wife or family. They can't say no, and they talk too much. And they lack focus, and they lose track of time. And that's why they lack a lot of time. Their emotional needs is they lack attention from all people. They like people to look at them, to pay attention to them. They like affection. They're touchy people. They need approval of their deed. They need their acceptance as is. So parents, if you have a child who is of a sanguine temperament, and you want to encourage him or her, you need to understand that attention is really important and affection is really important. Now that's the challenge. If the parent is more a phlegmatic type or a melancholy type, and they are, or a choleric. God help you if you're choleric. Because if you're choleric, it's like a martial kind of army thing. And you've got to do it right. And that just would not work. And so make sure you pay attention to that. And what you do, I love what my son-in-law does, Dave. Dave is an amazing guy. I love him so much. What he does every week, he takes the kids on their own before school and he hang out with them. Now, he's of a phlegmatic by temperament, and Melody is of a sanguine. And so so what he does, he takes them and he sits down with them and he listens. He utilizes one of his great skills, which is listening to that, and he just feeds into them. And so you can always do it. It doesn't matter what your temperament is, whether you lean towards naturally do that or not, you still can function if you just simply understand this. And you just sit down. It's just like you go to your car, you open the door, you put the ignition key in, or whatever key that you use, a keyless, and you put your thing in, and you just do it, and you drive, as long as you're safe on the road. You don't have to be a car racing driver to come out of this, as long as you do it right. Now, how do they control other people? They like to control them with charm and with laughter. You'll notice with sanguine, it's always about charm, and particularly the people who come from the Middle East. And as you know, I'm from a Lebanese background, and this is huge within the Lebanese background and the Middle Eastern, because it's all about charm. It's all bigger than life. Everything's got to be bigger, and it's that big ya habibi type of stuff. And you always finish it with a kind of a laughter. So how do we work smart with them? What are they like at work? First of all, the popular sanguine, the place in the puzzle is the bright flowers motivate others to join, and they are the creative person. They are the best in this. They're best at making initial contact with people. They create enthusiasm and excitement, encouraging and uplifting others, ensuring that the group has fun. At work, sanguine is apt to be too easily distracted and forgetful. So it's very important that you remind them, you give them a time frame, you give them boundaries. The presentation style is one of humor with a light touch, and there's a warning here. They can come on too happy or too cute, and they can come on not consider it serious or believable, and don't let them handle money. Otherwise, you'll be broke for all of your life. And realize that they need fun and adventure. Their work strength is they like to volunteer for a job. They think up new activities. They look great on the surface. They're always dressed well. I mean, they really pay attention. The color coordination it is, and it's bright. And they walk in, and I love it when I see my male. She's always dressed up really lovely. You walk in, and it puts a smile on your face because they like that. They're creative and colorful. They have energy and enthusiasm. They start in a flashy way. They inspire others to join, and they charm others to work. What about their work struggles? They would rather talk. They forget their obligation. They don't follow through. Their confidence fades fast. They have a tendency to be more on the undisciplined. Their priorities are very well out of order. They decide by their feelings. They're easily distracted, and they waste time talking. A biblical character is Apostle Peter. Apostle Peter is a classic example of the sanguine, the way he talked a lot and got him into a lot of trouble by just simply talking. So how do we spot the sanguine? First of all, they're loud. They're dramatic. They're the life of the party. They'll finish the sentence for you. Their car is filled with fast food, empty containers from way back. The desk littered with all sorts of things, 3 to 4 layers. They're looking for their glasses, keys, mobile, and sometimes even their kids. Their cleaning method, I love this one. They check out stuff because they're off or they don't work, and they replace them because they can't find them. So that's their cleaning method. And what do sanguines love? They love life. They love things. They love talking. They love presents. They love shopping. They love telling stories. They love others to think about them. And so what we need to do is recognize their difficulty in accomplishing tasks, realize they talk without thinking first, realize they lack variety and flexibility, help them to keep from accepting more than they can do, praise them for everything they accomplish as long as it's sincere. And remember, they are circumstantial people, and realize that they mean well. Now, with each one of these temperament, I've got what I call the sealer. Now, those of you who love the book of Psalms and read the book of Psalms on a regular basis, Psalms and Proverbs and so forth, it's just wisdom and devotion and just feeding your soul and your spirit and just meditating on the Word of God. You notice in the book of Psalms, there is always sealer at the end. And it's not just the Christian group Sealer, which is a great group, by the way. But the idea with it is, now that you've read that, you need to do kind of this. I want to meditate on it. I want to take it in. I want to apply it in my life. How does it work? How do I process that? So I want to give you what I think the conclusion for every temperament as far as I'm concerned. The problem with the sanguine, it is not the constant talking as much as it is the vain repetition. That is the same thing over and over again. The outright exaggeration, the revised versions, the unbelievable stories. The solution, if they simply focus on the substance of their conversation, by simply organizing their thoughts first, prayerfully, get a pad, always think on a pad, see it, write it, be happy with it. Because when you write it and it's clear, then it's what you want to say. So when you organize your thoughts prayerfully and you choose your words carefully, others will find your style of communication a pleasure to enjoy rather than a pain to endure. A lot of time we say, oh, I wish you stopped talking. And often when people marry, first of all, opposite attracts. You have the sanguine love the fact because he or she likes to talk, and so they meet and they like somebody who likes to listen, like a phlegmatic, because a phlegmatic doesn't want to talk. It's too much work. And the sanguine does for both of them. So they're both happy initially. But then it goes from opposite attracts to opposite attacks. Because after a while, you're just fed up. You've heard this thing over and over again. And they think you don't know that. And so we often say to them, if you just simply shut up, no. It doesn't work, because talking words is your tools of trade. What you need to do, you need to discipline that area. And the best way you can do that is to start writing. Always have the attitude. Anytime you're any place, get your thoughts together. If you don't have something to write, put it onto your notes on here. Because what you do, you see, writing and reading rewires your brains. It causes you to focus, and it's really important. And then do that. So, for example, my temperament is, I'm a sanguine choleric by temperament. And so if I don't have my notes in front of me, I probably would be now still at the first part, because you've got no idea all the ideas floating inside my head while I'm talking to you. But I can't do that. I've actually planned what I need to do. I prayed over what I need to say. I've had you in mind as my audience. I've looked at what actually I sense the Lord would want to do, and I've just got to stick to that. And if I worked it out in time, each one takes a certain amount of time. And if I do that, then it can be beneficial to you. And what really helped me is writing. And so I want to encourage you to develop that. Okay. The next temperament is what we call the powerful choleric. They're the leaders, the producers, the builders. This boy is powerful choleric. Don't mess around with me, buddy. You mess around with me and you're in a lot of trouble. They're the doers. They're the natural leaders. They're decisive, directional. They like to get things done. They like to, bang on the thing. They like to, like Mr. Hawke, going like this. Most presidents have been a choleric because when they speak, they really are very forceful with their points. They're always on the move. They point the finger. They point and pound the fist while they're talking. Their strength is they're high achievers. They're natural-born leaders. Now, we need to clarify something with this. When we say a natural-born leader, it doesn't mean you're a good leader. You're a servant leader. But you do have presence about you. You have a sanguine walking in, and a choleric walking in, and a melancholy walking in, and a phlegmatic. What you'll notice, except for the noise that the sanguine makes, the presence of the choleric all of a sudden makes a big difference. There's a presence about them, the way they're dressed and the way they're focused, and they are goals orientated. So when we say natural, that they need to develop that servant leadership because otherwise what will happen, they will rely on a natural thing that God has given them, but it hasn't been developed into a servant leadership. And they are usually right. They love a challenge, and they're problem fixer. It's not a problem. Issues come up, we'll fix them up, not an issue. And their struggle is they're overconfident. They can tend to be more on the narcissistic side. They can't say, I am sorry. In the same way, the sanguine find it hard to say no. The choleric finds it hard to say, I am sorry. And there's that humility problem. And so a choleric needs to understand humility is really important as far as a leadership quality. They quit when they can't win. And we've seen a lot of time with leaders when they finish the thing. In fact, the elections tomorrow, there are 3 or 4 of them, and they all quit because the party is finished with them, or they decided to leave, or whatever the whole thing, and they just want to move on. They know how to cut their losses, and they move on. They want to be the boss, and they usurp authority. If they are someplace and they see somebody who's a weakling, and they kind of dilly-dallying around, and not a prepared program, not a prepared agenda, they don't know what's on earth is going on. They're likely to take over. Their emotional needs, to them, support and loyalty is crucial. Support and loyalty. They need your support and loyalty. They need to have a sense of control of what's going on. They need to appreciate their service. And they need to have an accomplishment. And in the same way that the sanguine controls others with charm and laughter, the choleric, they control others by angry outbursts. So generally in an office, and you have the boss who's a choleric by temperament, and they basically create this kind of an environment where there's anger. And so people are kind of walking on eggs around them. They don't want to upset them. And so, and it's a pity, because that is such an ineffective way. Their work smart, the powerful choleric is the place in the puzzle, it's a square corners. They're most likely to succeed, and their leadership position. They're best at motivating people to action, controlling the plans and productivity. They're giving quick and clear instructions. They make sure the group sees the immediate gain. They're apt to be too impulsive and intimidating. And their presentation style is one of authoritative and convincing. And warning, they may come too overpowering. They seem to look down on others. Often they intimidate less confident people. And you'll find within a meeting, when you have a meeting, they can come across by too harsh. They want to control the narrative, and they want people to look away from what other people are saying, and they want them to see what they are saying. And now they want to control the whole thing. So they need to realize that they need action and excitement. Working with them without action and excitement, it will not work. Their strength at works, they're goal-orientated. They see the whole picture. They organize well. They seek practical solution. They move quickly to action, delegates work. They insist on production. They are very big on production. They're such great producers. They execute. They are just tremendous. They fix things as well. They make the goal. They stimulate activity, and they thrive on oppositions. Their struggles in their work is little tolerance for mistakes. They don't analyze details. They're bored by trivia. They may make rash decisions. They may be rude or tactless. They manipulate people. They're demanding of others. To them, the end justifies the means. Their work may become his or her God, and they work very late. And as a result of this, their family suffers big time. I mean, big time. Because for them, they need to stay until it gets done. And they demand loyalty in the ranks. A biblical character is Apostle Paul. If you study the case of Apostle Paul, a very, very classic case from the moment he was Saul and how God changed him to Paul and what he went on. 2/3 of the New Testament, the church's phenomenal, hardworking person. Now, here we need to be beware of something. The undisciplined extrovert temperament of the choleric, fiery kind has a natural tendency to be easily provoked by others who seem unreal and or unreasonable to them. Once you're provoked, unless you proactively respond, whether you know it or not, you will naturally react. When you react, whether you like it or not, your spontaneous behavior is negative and or argumentative and or combative or defensive. This creates unhappy atmosphere and unpleasant environment, especially at home, where spouses are hurt and children are wounded. So what's my sealer to you for the choleric? And I'm one of you guys, so don't shoot me afterwards. The issue is control. And for you, control is a big deal. And so I need you to understand what it's like working with you. So this is from the other side, because developing empathy is when you put yourself in somebody else's shoes and you know what they're going through. So communicating with controllers is more than hard work. It's nearly a mission impossible. First, you need to apply all of your interpersonal relationship skills just to keep a mild discussion from turning into a heated debate, whilst at the same time, you're slowly turning their one-way monologue into a two-way dialogue. And there's another hurdle. If you happen to see the issue differently than they do, or perhaps you don't share their point of view on either the problem or the solution, well, that's a big no-no for a controller. Why? Because controllers interpret disagreement with them as disobedience to them. And another thing, be careful when you ask them for their advice. They take it as if you are seeking their permission. And so, finally, if you allow them, controllers will provoke you by their unreasonable demands and unrealistic expectations. The key is not to fall apart and react angrily with them, but to simply stand firm and respond. So instead of react, respond. Instead of react, respond. This is one of the strongest things I can leave you with. Learn how to respond rather than react. Because when you react, you're going to lose. It's almost like somebody in a tennis game, and then you have this high-speed tennis serve. I mean, it's phenomenal speed. And what you find, the professional people, when they react and they flick it, it goes everywhere. But the professional people who actually watch every bit about that tennis player, they know every move of theirs. Watch what the first thing they do. They take a step back and they say, I am now in charge of this. You've had your say, it's now my say. And they play according to their game, and they utilize the speed by which the serve is coming to them to actually flick it nicely and utilize it to win the point. And it's all about mastering how to respond rather than react. So what you want to do is you want to stand firm and respond calmly is this. I appreciate your acceptance, but I can live without your approval. Because what the choleric don't understand and the controllers understand, even though they don't verbally ask for that, but everything is geared for you to seek their approval so they can sign off on it. That means you're okay. The reality, no, only God has that. Nobody else has that. Now, a perfect melancholy. The perfect melancholy is the philosophers, the artists, the inventors, the doctors, the musicians. And you like my melancholy image? So you got the melon and then the collie. They're the thinker. They're private. They love their own. They're proper. Everything's just nice and organized. They're sensitive. They organize these things in a particular certain ways. That goes like that, and that goes like that, and then that goes like that. No, I think that's just got to be like that. Uh-oh, that's not good. I think we'll do that. That goes like that. No, I think we'll do that. They are very particular with this. And now, if you're married to one and you make fun of that, God help you. Because what you are doing, you are making fun of their uniqueness. Not only they don't want to change, but they don't like to change because they are at their happiest when they do that. And so the Bible tells us to cast out the scorner, and tension will disappear in the book of Proverbs. And so appreciate. And then if you got your kids that way, and if they're introvert, and they're playing a guitar or playing a piano, and first of all, they've got to sit down, and they've got to do these things. And he says, get on with it. The Sanguine says, we've been here for 3 minutes. We could have played the song already. No, the melancholy kids is going to get it right. They got to sit down. They got to do all these things. Got to do all this because that's the way they do things, and that's why they're excellent. And by the way, if there was one temperament that actually trumps all of them, it has to be this, because most actors are melancholy and they play any part. A lot of time, the melancholy can be very confused because if they need to be an extrovert, they can easily do that because they are great at copying. They know what to do. And so if there was one particular temperament that is so good, it'd have to be this one. They like chart and lists. They like quietness, flash. They're not flashy. They're artistic and musical. Their strength is the analytical. Now, this is both, I think this is both good and bad in one level. It's great to be analytical in order to understand what happened, in order so we can fix, so the next time we do that, we do better. But when you go back and you dive into it and you don't get out of it, that can really, really become very depressing. But analytical, they like to study these things. They work, their works is well done. They're planners, they're organized, they're deep thinkers, they love beauty and artistic. Their struggle is they're super perfectionists, they're loners, they're stunned under pressure, they're overly sensitive and selfish, and they're hard to please. What I found when I'm working with group of people, and as I mentioned to you, I've been doing this for the last 40 years now, and with different settings, at church settings, at company settings. There's a company that all the new staff, they all had to go through this because the company wants them to understand how to work with each other so they don't kill each other, so they become much more productive. And so my advice is always to them, if you've got a new idea, don't let the melancholy go first, because you'll never get anything done. Because if they start first, they can only tell you what's wrong with it. And always start with the sanguine. The sanguine is kind of this uplifting, encouraging. But don't make a decision just because you like what the sanguine says, and it kind of, scratches your back, and, you're happy with it. No, you start with the sanguine, but you don't let it out until you pass it by a melancholy, because that way you get the perfect. You've got the positive side of it, what really works, what doesn't work, and also you can remove any hidden problems. The emotional needs, and this is very, very strong for them. They're big on emotional needs. They love space to be alone. They like silence, no people around them. Sensitivity to feelings and understanding. They love understanding. They dig into understanding. And the way they control is moodiness. The sanguine uses the charms and the laughter. The choleric uses the anger and that kind of fear. The melancholy here, moodiness. One day they're feeling good, the next day they're a bit moody. What side of the bed you got off this morning? What was the traffic like? And so they control by that moodiness. Now, to work smart, perfect melancholy, the place in the puzzle is they are the straight edges. They seize the financial benefits, and they are the detail person. They're best at planning and explaining the details. They're keeping the financial record straight, being sensitive to the needs of others, making sure the group sees the long-range goal. They're apt to be too easily distracted and critical. Their presentation style is accurate and sincere, so you can always trust that. Warning, they might come across to be too intellectual and remote, and may make others feel less intelligent, and they can get lost in the details. So realize they need order and understanding. So their work strength is they're schedule orientated, they're perfectionist and high standard, they detail conscious, they're persistent and thorough, they're orderly and organized, they're neat and tidy, economical, they seize the problem, they find creative solution, they need to finish what he or she started, and they like charts, graphs, figures, lists, and so forth. Their struggles at work, they're not people-orientated, they're depressed over imperfection, they choose difficult work, they're hesitant to start projects, they spend too much time planning, they prefer analysis to work, they're self-deprecating, they're hard to please, their standards often are too high and unrealistic, and they have a deep need to be for approval. The biblical characters, not only Moses, but also Solomon and Apostle John, they were melancholy by temperament. And when you study them, you will see how that fits in with the picture. So my sila to you, my melancholy friend, is this. About imperfection. Imperfection is huge. And once you get hold of this, I really wish you take hold of this and you meditate on it and you read it and reread it. Because I promise you, once you get that, You will experience a certain freedom you've not experienced before. And not only you, but the people immediately around you. Because what you and I don't realize, when we are stuck, not only we're stuck, but we're also causing other people to be stuck around us as well. Okay, here it goes. I am an imperfect being, living an imperfect life in this imperfect world, and I am perfectly fine. I am perfectly enabled through Christ who strengthens me to seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and to set my mind on things above. I am perfectly able to walk by faith and not by sight, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of my faith. I am perfectly capable, by the grace of God, in his strength and to his glory, to daily exercise my natural talents, express my spiritual gifts, and enjoy my abundant life. Now, whether you are a melancholy or not, you can do that, but you need to understand that being imperfect is okay. Is okay. Okay, the final one is our peaceful phlegmatic. The final one is our peaceful phlegmatic. They're the diplomats, the accountants, the teachers, the technicians. And the peaceful phlegmatic, they're the watcher. He says here, I think I still have some unfinished procrastinating to do from yesterday. They just procrastinate quite a bit. They're the watchers. They're easygoing, they're quiet, they're comfortable closing, they're light on their feet, they blend in, steady workers, and they are flexible. Their strength is they are steady and reliable. They're good listeners. They're calm, witty, and kind. They have very few enemies. They live on a low key. Their struggle is they dislike change. They're uninvolved. They avoid conflict at all costs. They're super stubborn when they're pushed, and they're hard to get moving. Their emotional need is they love peace and quiet. So if you are married to somebody, you create that room for them. Encourage them to do that. They like to be on their own. When Dave and Mel were living with us, often, because we were upstairs, they were downstairs, I hear the lights still downstairs, and I go to bed very late, and I can see David sitting in the corner with the lights on and just enjoying reading the book. And to me, he says, oh, wow, he is in the zone, because he works so hard with all the work that he does, and he just loves the peace and quiet. That feelings of worth, you want to encourage them. For your kids, if you recognize that's their temperament. They don't like stress, and they need to sleep more, and they need the respect for who they are. But the way they control you is by procrastination. Now, at work, their place in the puzzle is the green grass. They make others feel like they belong. They're the support person. They're best at making sure the group is comfortable. They're always finding a middle ground. They're staying calm and functional amid chaos. They're not overreacting to a negative situation. They're apt to be too undisciplined and indecisive. Their presentation style is believable and balanced. Warning, they may come across as too low-key, dull, or lazy. They appear too unenthusiastic and unconvinced. Don't count on them for motivation, and realize that they need rest and some quiet time. Their work strength is they're competent and steady, peaceful and agreeable. They have administrative ability. They mediate problem. They are the best because they listen and they process and they take their time and they go right into the heart of the matter. And they would dig in and says, what do you mean by that? And how did that make you feel? And what happened then? So by the time you finish with them, you feel, wow, they really understand me. They avoid conflict. They're good under pressure. They find the easy way. Their work struggle is they are not goal-orientated. They lack self-motivation. They're hard to get moving. They resent being pushed. They're lazy and careless. They discourage other people, and they would rather watch than participate. For example, they can be reading a book and an explosion happened on the outside. They would finish their paragraph. They would put it down and says, oh, what was that? Oh, it's that kind. It's nice to be relaxed, but that's too relaxed, especially when it's life and death matter. Abraham is a biblical character. If you want to study Phlegmatic, understand that, and you can see how he allows Sarah to lead and do all sorts of things. So what's my sealer for them? I think the Phlegmatic, they need to understand the terms of success. First of all, success is not a mystery but a mastery. You notice I use this term quite a bit, of the art and science. Anytime you do that and you want to get to it, you got to remove this mystery. Only the handful people, only the select few, only this. No. Everybody can do that, except these people have developed the art and science, and they spend a lot of time on it, and they apply it, and as a result, they reap the benefit. So that's really what success in life, at whatever level, whether it's at church, in marriage, at home, at work, it's all the same thing. And so the success, they need to understand, is not a mystery but a mastery of the art and science of the personal discovery, ongoing development, effective deployment of your natural talent and spiritual gifts. So you need to see the opportunity, you need to say a prayer, you need to seize the moment, you need to set your goals, you need to set up a system, you need to start early, you need to serve others, you need to stick with your plan, you need to stay on course, you need to see it through and to say thank you. The moment the Phlegmatic understand, this requires effort, and they place themselves to that, their life changes big time. Because initially, the whole idea is too much work. And so they're missing out on great potential. So the question is, which of the four temperaments do you belong? The summary: the sanguine, outgoing, popular, life of the party, lives for fun; the choleric, the leader, the confident, the forceful, the goal-orientated; the melancholy, the artistic, the close friendship, organized, analytical; or the phlegmatic, the easygoing, gets along with all, balanced and steady. Another way to say it: yes, that's me. I love being a sanguine. That's the popular otter. And so that's a sanguine. You better believe it. So not what the choleric does. You better believe it. The powerful lion. The melancholy, I've analyzed all the data, and I am nearly 100%. It's always a kind of an element of doubt. And melancholy, that's the perfect beaver. And the phlegmatic is, I suppose I'm a phlegmatic, and I can do that. So I want to leave you with this. I remember years ago, Faith and I, we were just going out, walking around Botany Bay, and I saw this beautiful picture. And we were just watching it, and it was just sunset. And even though I'm not a melancholy by temperament, I love. This is what happens when you grow and mature. You begin to borrow, and it begins to be part of you. Like, I'm a musician. I love creating songs. And those of you who follow me on Facebook, you know I do a lot of melodies. So people say, can I do this? You can do whatever you want to do. It's just at the core of you, you're that. And so when I saw this, I thought, wow. And I thought, what could I write to that to leave with people? And I want to leave that with you. I want you to press on, first of all, with the heart to love, the faith to believe, the need to pray, the hope to inspire, the honor to serve, the humility to walk, the grace to lead, the wisdom to discern, the knowledge to do, the attitude to trust, the desire to build, the will to arise, the mind to work, the spirit to cooperate, the strength to persevere, and the determination to finish. And beloved, if we understand the four temperaments and we understand that we are gifted by not so much a psychological thing, even though it's been used quite a lot within the psychology world, obviously because it fits their need and they help people relate to each other, but it was more a scientific understanding of it. And once you apply that, and that becomes your goal, because really in a nutshell, God wants us to live our lives, first of all, by his grace, in his strength, and to his glory. And he wants us to understand that with relationships, it's not about chemistry, although chemistry is really important. And a lot of time we don't understand the chemistry because we're missing out on understanding the temperament. But chemistry is important. But character and competence are very important as well. So once we have character, competence, and chemistry, then we have the joy of living. And Jesus says, I am come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. And so by us understanding these things and apply, so I really want to encourage you and we've handed you some notes, and those of you who made some notes, and then I think we're recording this so you can go over again. And listen, if this is the first time you've heard something like this, you probably get about 60%, 70%. And then in time, you develop and understand it. And initially, you might think you are one person. And then as you begin to apply, you think you're something else. That's okay. Just keep at it. And you'll find that you'll grow in grace and in the knowledge of Jesus Christ. Let me close with one of my favorite verses in Revelation chapter 1, verse 5 and 6. Now unto him that loved us and washed us from our sins in his own blood, and has made us kings and priests unto God and his Father. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen.